everyone, my name is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and in today's video I'm going to share the unboxing and setup of the new Cameo5α. The Cameo 5 I ordered on a Thursday. It arrived from Utah to me on Monday. Shipping times will vary just depending on how many orders are in front of you and how it is being shipped and how far it is being shipped. So that was pretty quick. I was surprised. The delivery updates changed a couple times in that entire process, but it arrived today. So I'm going to do the unboxing. Now, I have not seen this in person at all. I did order this and paid for it myself so that I'd be able to do videos on it and show you how to set it up. I do have some very important information on the setup of this machine. It's very important to follow the setup steps, as well as we have a new software version that you have to use. So I will be covering all of that. First, I'm going to do a quick time lapse of unboxing this, and we will discuss what is included in the box and what is not included in the box. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed and see what we have to work with. I would recommend keeping the box and the styrofoam packing material that is inside of the box, just in case you ever need to ship your machine back, or if you're traveling with it, or in my case, moving with it. Make sure to do the registration for the machine warranty. I highly recommend that. It does start the day you purchase it, and in the US, it is a 1-year warranty. So keep that box. If you are looking for a quick start video and you do not want to stick around for all of this in-depth tips and troubleshooting, make sure to check out the video description below. I'm going to have a extremely cut down video that is a quick start compared to this. It ended up being almost an hour long, but I do go into in-depth on each of the new features, my tips, troubleshooting, and anything that I see that could be a possibility that's going to affect your user experience. Okay, now everything is out of the box. You want to double check in all of the packing material. You do not want to throw anything away that could be very important to you. So I have taken everything out of the package. There is a larger bag that includes your Autoblade. You have a tool wrench in here, and the sketch pen adapter is now back with the Cameo5α machine. So that is the blue sketch pen adapter, now comes again with the machine. You have 2 parts to your power cord. You do want to make sure, and if you ever have any power issues or your machine is not powering on, you want to make sure that the connection between these 2 cords is secure. The best way to do that is simply to unplug it and plug it back in. But it does need to be secure in order for it to work. And sometimes those connections can get jostled and just unplug themselves. So you want to double check that if you ever have issues. So I am going to mention troubleshooting steps as we go along, simply because that's what I do. You can try to speed up this video. I will sound like a chipmunk, but the information that I am providing for the setup of the machine, I feel is very important, and it comes from troubleshooting with thousands of users and the questions that they ask. So if you're looking at your machine, it's on the right-hand side. You have a plug. It goes power plug, then it is your USB port, and then it is your power button. I'm going to plug this in here, and then I'm going to drop my power cord just on the floor. I'll come around and plug it in just a second. A couple of things I do want to mention here. First, when you get your machine, as you saw, there's going to be packing material inside of the machine. You want to make sure that everything is removed from inside the machine. If something is left in there, it can cause you issues when you go to start the machine. So I have removed everything that I can see. Next, the first thing I want to mention is that there is typically a protective cover over top of the screen here, but when I peel off the little tab that's supposed to help you remove it, all I got was the tab. And I have tried, and I don't actually see a protective cover on top of that screen. I'm not going to mess with it right now. It does not affect the actual function of the machine to have it on or off. If it is on there as we use the machine, I will start to notice, and it'll start to kind of get crinkly, and then I'll be able to peel it off. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. The other thing I want to mention to you is that the roller position is not correct for usage. It is correct for the shipping of the machine, and it is secured in this location for shipping. So before you ever use your machine, you will need to set it up properly. So with this, one of the new features for the Cameo5α, and we will come in for a little bit closer look. I think it'll be easier to see if I move the camera in. So I'm going to switch over to that camera view. First, I want to also mention there is a cutting mat that is in the box as well. But the two things that are not included in the box with the Cameo5α are a USB cord. I will put a link in the video description below. It is a generic USB cord that is used for printer cables. It's most commonly referred to as a printer cable. They stopped including the USB cord in the machines with the release of the Cameo 5 simply because computers have changed. Most computers that you buy these days, unless you special order it or you look specifically for a USB port, it is very common in Apple computers, and it's becoming more common with Microsoft computers or Windows computers. But it has a USB-C lightning port versus having multiple USB ports. There is a difference, and I haven't really had success with my Windows computers on the USB-C ports, the lightning ports. It doesn't seem to work well for me. If I do have to plug it in by USB cord, or I just use the regular USB cord. But I will put a link in the video description below if you need to grab one of those, because it is a very generic cord. Since computers have changed, that was when they made the decision not to start including additional cables to try to, hit all users. It's kind of like when you get a new phone charger or a new multi-charger, and it comes with 10 different cords. Well, that was to try to cater to all of the different phone types before they all have now changed back to the USB-C type for your charging cord. So it's kind of along the same lines as that. It is a USB printer cord, and it is supposed to be able to update the firmware through Bluetooth. If you run into problems with the firmware updating or with any updates to the machine, you would need to get the USB cord and connect it to your computer. It's the easiest way to troubleshoot it. That's if you cannot get that firmware update to go through by Bluetooth. So just want to mention that when I first unboxed my original, the very first generation Cameo 5, I could not get it to work by Bluetooth. That was when it was really new. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping this is going to work. I'm going to do it. My computer's right back here. We're going to try it. So I'm going to move the camera closer so we can look at that. But I almost forgot. The second thing that is not included in the box, which you might look at and see might be reflected in the price. There is no roll feeder included in the box with the Cameo5α. With the first generation Cameo 5, a roll feeder was in the box with it. Now it is not included. It will be available as an additional accessory. As I record this video right now, I have not seen that is available yet, but I will put a link in the video description below and adjust that as I do see it. So let's come in a little bit closer and take a look at this machine. Now, if you want to skip to a certain section of this video, make sure to check out the chapters in the video description below, but I'm going to include as much information in this to get a new user started as possible to make it easier on you. One of the new updates to the machine is the updated rollers, because the first generation Cameo 5, some of them had issues. So they have now changed this. I actually really like this so far from what I've seen. I haven't moved it. I haven't, just from looking at it, simply based on the fact, now I'm going to move it here so we can see it easier. You're going to push down on this button on the top, and then you can just put your finger underneath, push and slide. So as you slide this, that is your lock lever. What I like about it is that you can now see this right roller. That is great. It's easy to see where it is on your material. It's easy to see where it is going to be located on your cutting mat. You do not want this roller, or even this roller. You can now see the left one. I'll move those out of the way. You can see both rollers very easily, and it will make it very easy to clean if you ever do get adhesive residue on them. Adhesive residue gunks up your rollers most often because users are either resticking their mats, which we do not recommend, or the rollers are rolling on top of the adhesive on the cutting mat. And as they do, they're going to pick up that adhesive, which is then going to pick up dust, fibers, dirt, and I have seen some of the most nastiest rollers ever. It will cause you cut issues. It will cause you feed issues over time. And it can get stuck in this bottom roller bar. Now, on the bottom roller bar, hopefully it'll show up on the video, the bottom roller bar now has some textured, it's gridded. It has some texture on it, and in that textured area, so here's a textured area. Let me just move this out of the way. You still have the divots in this white section here on the back side of the roller bar. But now you have these textured areas, and the roller can now be locked in any position along this textured area. If your roller is over top of the smooth part, it's not going to feed properly. You may see feed issues. It needs to be on top of that gridded area. That's where it gets the friction and it helps to hold the materials securely. So they say with this update, not only can you move this roller to more locations, you can move those out of the way, but it's going to hold thinner materials more securely. I will know over time with testing on that. So I'm just going to move this over here. When you are using a cutting mat, we'll go ahead, let's open this cutting mat here. While I'm up close, I will demonstrate this. When you are using a cutting mat, you have your load line right here, these little raised arrows. We'll move these to the middle. They are just auxiliary rollers that help to hold the materials down as they are being cut. These can be lifted up when you're using with the electrostatic mat. And usually I just keep mine up and out of the way because I do use the electrostatic mat a lot. You're going to load the left edge of the cutting machine or cutting mat next to this load line, not over top of it. Your left roller is on the left edge of your cutting mat, and your right roller is on the right edge of your cutting mat. With this new roller and the way it's designed, it is very easy to see. That is great. So on these auxiliary rollers, I did write a blog post on it, and I don't think I ever published it, but the ones that come standard on the machine, these two, have a spring guide on the back here. The spring doesn't actually provide any pressure, but what it does is it helps for your mat. We'll just pretend here. Those spring guides help to hold the mat flat or to hold the materials flat so it doesn't bubble up in the middle between those rollers as it's being cut. That is the purpose of them. Now, one of the new things that I do not have because they aren't out yet is that you can now order additional rollers, and they actually have a rubber wheel on them instead of this spring. But you can add additional rollers to all of the Cameo 5 models, including the first generation and the Cameo 5. Now you will notice mine is a white Cameo 5. It was all that was available when it was first released. I would have liked the Bianca, but that's okay. I'm going to decorate this one. So we have the Tool 1 housing and the Tool 2 housing, pretty much the same as the original Cameo 5. Okay, before I get into the additional updates on the actual machine, I want to get it set up because there are some very important steps into getting the machine set up. And if you run into issues, I want to give you those troubleshooting steps as well, because I already know there are a couple of things, especially if you are getting the machine right away. So the first one is going to be the software version that you need to use. And it will depend on when you are watching this video. If you are watching this video a week or a month down the road from the actual release of the video, if you're watching it a year, it is going to make a difference what software version. The minimum software version, it was released that the day at Summit that they announced this, is version 5.0.402. That is the minimum software version. You have to use at least that version in order for the Cameo 5 Alpha to be recognized. So let's take a look on the Silhouette America website. When you go to Silhouette America, I'm going to give you the generic of the directory, because if the website changes again, you're still going to be able to find it using the same steps. You are going to go to software. Then you are going to go to Silhouette Studio. Under Silhouette Studio, the current version is the current version that Silhouette has released. Typically, I don't recommend the current version. However, as of today's date, it is the only version that recognizes the Silhouette Cameo5 Alpha. So you have to use it. So I am going to have to, I've already downloaded it. I've downloaded it onto my extra computer for use for this video, and I'm going to have to start using it. I already know there are bugs in version 5 since it was released, and those have not been fixed, but I have to use it for the Cameo5 Alpha. So we're just going to work through all of that together. Now, if you're watching this a week, a month, a year down the road, make sure to comment below and I will let you know what the current version is that I am recommending at that time. As new versions are released and things are updated, there may be more stable versions or where versions have been fixed. Hopefully they'll have a release out soon, because I'm going to share another little troubleshooting tip with you here in just a second. So let's jump over to first under I showed you the current version. Current version is listed there. You also have legacy versions. Now, as we go down the road, you may be able to go back to a legacy version, but you will not be able to go back farther than the 5.0.402. But you want to know where to find legacy versions just in case. It's one of the most asked questions that we get. So now let's go over into the Silhouette software version 5. Now, if you are not familiar with version 5, you will be in for a new look. When you first open version 5, there is a new splash screen and you cannot avoid it. It is there all the time. You simply need to click on design. So there are a lot of things on this page. It's great and worth exploring. You have some templates, you have some news on the right hand side, you have your most recent library files, even though mine is not up to date whatsoever. It does pull this information from the internet, from the Silhouette servers. So it is connected to the Silhouette servers. If for some reason it doesn't load, you can still use your Silhouette software without having the online aspect of it. You won't be able, if you don't have internet, it's not going to connect to the Silhouette servers. So you would not be able to download new files from the Silhouette Studio Store, or the library won't sync if you don't have an internet connection. But you can still use Silhouette Studio and your Silhouette machine. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to the top right and click on design. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that with version 5, the idea behind it by Silhouette was to make the software easier for a beginner to understand and to navigate. So you do have at the top here, you have this starter mode. You can toggle it on or off. And as you saw on my screen here, with starter mode on, you do have larger icons, but you are limited in what options you do have. And it's going to walk you through some things literally step by step by step by step. So starter mode is great. However, for this tutorial, for the setup, I'm going to turn it off just because then I can see my whole screen and I have everything up here. Personally, I do have the business edition, which you will see up here in the top left corner. On a Windows computer, it tells me I have business edition. It should not affect anything we're going over in the setup today. On the right-hand side, when you first download Silhouette version 5, you're going to get some pop-up screens. You can go through those. I already have, so you won't see those on my screen, but you will. I would encourage you to go through all of the icons on the right-hand side if you are familiar with Silhouette Studio as version 4, simply because some things have changed. And there will be more tutorials out there on version 5. I have not spent a lot of time on it because there have been a lot of bugs. So I wasn't spending time troubleshooting on that. Now I have to use it if I'm going to use the Cameo5 Alpha. So I'm going to come up to the top right icon is still your page setup panel. One thing I want to point out here is that you will notice that the registration marks tab is not on this panel any longer. That is one of those things that they changed. It is further down on the right hand side in that icon list. We're not covering that today, but I do want to mention it. So under machine, you are going to select Cameo5A, Cameo5α. That is the machine that I'm going to connect to today. You want to make sure that is the one that is selected there. Then it's going to recognize that on the computer. And then you would want to set up your feed type. We are using a mat, so that's going to be auto manual. But if I click on that, you have manual or you have the auto sheet feeder. That is, I'll put links in the video description for the auto sheet feeder. That's a whole other accessory. You also then have a cutting mat section. You can choose whether you are using none if you're cutting matless. Your electrostatic mat, which I love. It does take some time to get used to. And we'll touch on that here in just a little bit. I'm going to simply make sure Cameo, the auto 12x12 mat is selected. And then your media size, you have different options here. For your auto is your 12x12. You can select a 12x12. You can choose letter. Let's go ahead and we'll choose letter. And that just changes that to 8.5 by 11 inch. And then further down, it looks like we do not have that cut border. I'm going to click on this on the right hand side. The registration marks panel is the rectangle with the 3 lines on it. So I guess since I clicked on that, I'm going to show you this here. This is one of the updated features with the Cameo5α. It is only currently, as I record the video, available with the Cameo5α and the Cameo Mark II. So if I choose enable registration marks, I click on that on the screen, it shows 4 registration marks. This is different than any other older model that had 3. So this is one of their updates. I will put out further information on that and show a test of that as well. And we'll see if it is accurate. As Silhouette says, it's supposed to be more accurate than the 3 registration marks simply because you are reading all 4 corners. So the idea is hopefully it will eliminate that little excess of the offcut in the bottom right corner. That will take some testing for me to do. What I came over here to do is find the show cut border, which I don't see on this screen either. But it did help me to cross off one of the new updates. So we have our 4-point registration mark. Watch for more information on that coming out on the Silhouette Secrets YouTube channel. Back to the page setup panel. I don't see the show cut border there either. I will have to hunt for that. It's what you have to do when you use new software version. What I want to do now is I want to come over here to the Send tab. This is where your machine is going to be recognized. So I have plugged in my Cameo5α. It's plugged into the outlet. I'm going to reach over to the right-hand side as you're looking at the machine. I'm going to hold the power button down, and it actually didn't take very long at all. When I do that, the housing is going to move over to the right-hand side. And one thing I should point out here is a lot of times with your Autoblade has a very specific location where it sets the blade depth. That is all that the Autoblade does. It reads from what you've told it in the Silhouette Studio software. It reads the blade depth number, and that is what it taps down to. It will do a hard tap to reset to 0, and then it will do soft taps to adjust to the blade depth that you have set in the software. So if you have a setting of 3 for your blade depth, it's going to do 1 hard tap to get to 0. Then it's going to do 3 soft taps to get to 3. If it is not hitting that blade adjustment hole correctly, if your housing is out of alignment, which can happen for many different reasons and is often when you first open the box on a machine, but it can happen for many different reasons, such as cut settings are too high, your blade got stuck in your material, out of the box. So it is very common to have to do a blade housing reset. Here is how I identify that easily. And it does take practice. It's just something that I picked up on. The first thing is that you're going to install your blade. So you're going to pull out on the front of the housing. You're going to install your blade and you're going to lock the housing in place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load my cutting mat. So I'm going to place the left edge next to the load line on the left-hand side, not over top of it, next to it. And I'm going to press the load button. And of course, now it's not going to work. There we go. Okay, I just had to press it a little bit harder. The position of your tool 1 housing with the cutting mat loaded should be directly behind your left roller. The white roller here, when you have a cutting mat loaded, the tool housing should be directly behind it. That is how I can tell when troubleshooting if a blade housing is out of alignment. If it's even a 1/16 of an inch to the left or to the right of that white roller, and it may not hit that hole properly. And sometimes what happens is that one time it will adjust correctly and the next time it won't. So you have inconsistent cuts. This is one of the most common troubleshooting issues that we see. So I'm going to show you right here how to solve that because it is very important. I'm going to unload my cutting mat. I'm going to turn my machine off and I'm going to unplug it. You do not want power going to your machine when you do this. So it is unplugged. You're going to carefully take your blade housing. If for some reason it does not move easily, do not force it. But you're going to carefully take your blade housing. You're going to move it left and right. And I say 3 times. So one more time, 3, you're going to move it and you're going to leave it on the right-hand side. If you notice, when the machine arrived, your blade housing was on the right-hand side. It was taped to the right-hand side. Now I'm going to plug it back in and then I'm going to turn it on. It's going to reset the housing to the correct location. However, you need to load the cutting mat to know exactly where that blade housing is going to line up. This is true for all machines that use the Autoblade. So on older model machines, I didn't hear it do it on this one. I couldn't see it because I was over top of it. But on older model machines, that housing moves just a little bit. So it'll move right and then back to the left. So you want to make sure to load your cutting mat and look straight at your housing. And you want to make sure that your blade is loaded correctly all the way with no gap. So that's a little bit of an extra that I didn't anticipate doing. But what I needed to do was turn the machine on. So with the machine turned on, my software should recognize that. So we're going to jump back over into the software. So over here at the top on version 5, I'm going to click the little drop down arrow and it's going to show me what machines that this version of Silhouette Studio has recognized. So originally it showed me just the Curio 2, which I do have. And then once I turn the machine on, it recognized the Cameo5α. I'm going to select that and it already tells me that it's available. Now, with the Cameo 4 release is when they started that the firmware checks every single time you connect. So right now it is showing checking for a firmware update. It is very, very, very common when you get the machine to have a firmware update because when it is manufactured, could be weeks, could be months prior to that. And so they've been working on the software since the manufacturing of the machine, which could be a time span in between when you actually get the machine and when you are connecting to it on your computer. It does tell me that there is a firmware update available in orange. Orange, that's supposed to be like a red flag. It might have been better if it was red. It also says below that, update now. And this little icon over here to the left tells me that it is connected by Bluetooth. I do not have a USB cord here. I will only grab one if I run into an issue. I'm going to choose update now. and it is going to begin updating the firmware. It says, do not switch off the Cameo5α. If you do switch it off, you may run into more issues, but I'm not going to go down that road right now. We're going to wait. It is going to speak through the Bluetooth from my computer to the Cameo5α. It's going to update the firmware. And then what is supposed to happen is the machine will actually shut itself down and it will turn itself back on. When I'm recording these videos, it really just depends, especially with a new machine. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it is not. So it will just depend on how long it takes on if I cut a section of this video out or not. We'll know here in just a few minutes, but I will let you know about how long it takes. And as I went to grab my drink of water, the Cameo5α shut off and it turned back on. So let me take a drink. Which will sound really loud in the microphone. You know what? It's real. I'm just leaving it in here. To be honest, it did not take that long at all. I'm impatient because I'm on the video, but it was less than a minute. I can go back in the video clip and I can actually see how long it was. But to me, I felt like, when I looked at the clock, it said 4:43. Now it's 4:44. So it really didn't take that long, but sometimes I get impatient. So back in the software here, it is saying right now, trying to reconnect. It's checking for firmware again, and now it shows as load media. So here is, if you're using version 5.0.402, here is what we just found out recently. Before I even got my machine, I'm glad I knew about it before I unboxed this. If you select the materials in the software, currently cardstock plain is selected. If I come down here and I select cardstock textured, it says Autoblade, it does give me a blade depth. Let's go back to cardstock plain, and it actually has it. So we were told that there was an issue with some of the materials not being recognized by the Cameo5α. Let's scroll down here. You do see these little triangles. The little triangle means if you move your mouse over it, it'll say this material is not compatible with Tool 1 holder. These presets in the Silhouette Studio software are just a starting point. They are for you to start your test cuts. They are not set in stone. They have worked for someone somewhere in the world who used that material once. Maybe they cut multiples. I don't know. But someone created those settings. Your settings may be different for your machine, for your blade, for your material, but they are a starting point. So let's come down here. So currently, I was afraid it was going to be a bug, but it's actually working for me. So if I come down to sticker paper white, it is showing me that there are settings in here. If for some reason you see a material there is no compatible material for this, or some error like that that's along those lines. If you see that, you would simply click on this More button over here on the right hand side. That is where you're going to set up your own custom settings. That simply means that you start test cutting. You know, this sticker paper setting right now shows a force of 14. That works for some sticker paper. That cuts through on other sticker paper. It really just depends on what you are working with. But the good news is that crisis averted right here. My software, as I loaded this today, the software is showing that there are settings in here. So that is good to know. But I also told you where to set up those, and you can walk through setting up those settings if you need to. And that's also the More button on the right hand side is where you are going to set up custom cut settings as well. So if you find that your settings are different than what is set up in the Silhouette Studio software, you can create your own settings. So I'm going to change this back. We're going to go to cardstock. And let's just do plain. So it shows that we are set up and ready to go. Now, I want to mention the other updates to the Cameo 5. So the first one I'll mention is that with the electrostatic mat, the original electrostatic mat will work with the Cameo5α. I'm going to close this lid and tip this up, and just make sure your power button, you have these little unlocks here. This is how you're going to carefully remove that. You remove this, and then your electrostatic mat attaches to the front. The original electrostatic mat is compatible with this model. This is also where the roll feeder will be attached if you have that. So I'm going to cover this. I do recommend that you keep this covered when it's not in use, because you do not want dirt or debris to get on that little point of connectivity. That's where your electrostatic mat connects. You do not want dirt and debris or adhesive residue on that, or you're going to run into issues. The update for the Cameo5α is that the roller bar has been lifted a little bit higher so that there is additional clearance. And the specific amount that Silhouette stated is the original Cameo 5 model. I'm going to call it the first generation. First generation Cameo 5 model had a clearance with the electrostatic mat, with the protective sheet on top of it, of 0.2 millimeters. Now, with the Cameo5α, there is a clearance of 0.5 millimeters. Now, that is an additional increase of 0.3 millimeters. That is what you are now getting with the Cameo5α. At the Silhouette Summit, I heard it stated several times that this now allowed the machine to cut cardstock with the electrostatic mat. I've been cutting cardstock on the electrostatic mat for 2 years, since the electrostatic mat has been released. The biggest thing here is that you have additional clearance. So you have now increased with the Cameo5α, increased the clearance 0.3 millimeters, which means that you can cut, the material, not necessarily that you can cut thicker materials. The material can feed underneath the roller bar and clear that by an additional 0.3 millimeters. It does not guarantee the material will cut. The only way to know what is going to cut with your electrostatic mat is to test it. It's going to be dependent on your actual materials, the texture of your materials. It needs to be a smooth material that can maintain the charge for the entire cut. The next thing is, it is design dependent. There are going to be some designs that are just too intricate and do not have enough surface area when the design is being cut that is holding or maintaining that electrostatic charge. I love the electrostatic mat. It has saved me time, and I have cut for hours on end with it for projects that would have taken me probably quadruple the number of hours to cut and remove from the sticky mat or the adhesive mat. So I love it, but you are not guaranteed that everything's going to be cut. In my opinion, this is my opinion stated, the reason they increase the clearance is for materials such as sticker paper with a laminate on top of it. Now, again, I want to preface here, it does not mean that every single sticker paper with every brand of laminate is going to clear under the roller bar with the electrostatic mat. You have a 0.3 millimeter extra clearance on the Cameo 5. And I know I've covered this in some detail in a lot of words, but I want to make sure that it is understood very clearly that you cannot cut all materials with that electrostatic mat. It really just takes some time, and you need to use the right materials and test cut, test cut, test cut. That's one of the most important things. It doesn't matter what brand of cutting machine you have. Test cuts are your best friend. So I do have additional information on the electrostatic mat. You can find that in the video description below as well, or feel free to ask questions in the comments below and I can link you to some specific resources for that. I love it. It's I think it's an awesome technology and an awesome feature. One more thing, but I'm going to grab a tool accessory so we can test that out. Stick around with me because I'm going to show this in real time. Okay, so I had to go get a couple supplies. I grabbed a sheet of cardstock. This is a 110-pound cardstock. I'll link that below. The next feature that I want to point out is they said there was increased speed for sketching. So I had grabbed my bag of Silhouette as it jumps off the table. I have the Type-C Tool 2 pen holder. So I grabbed that. I did buy an extra because the first time I used it, I cracked the collar on it. So I purchased an extra one so I would have that available. The Type-C now comes with the orange adapter, which will work for wider bodied pens or markers, such as the Sharpie marker that you can use in your machine as well. But I want to set this up on camera. I want to try it out and test it. So with Tool 1, when you put a sketch pen in Tool 1, it functions just like a blade. So you have these two tool housings on the machine. They are two different types of tool housings. Tool 1 is an up and down motor. You can see that because this moves up and down. Tool 2 does not move up and down, and you should not force it. It is designed for the rotary blade and the craft blade, the specialty blades. So it has a round and round motor in it, which you will notice. And if you've ever used the Cameo 5 first generation, Tool 2 is slow, or it was slow. So now the updated feature with the Cameo 5 Alpha is Tool 2 is supposed to have increased sketch speed. So we're going to test that as our setup on the new machine. So I'm going to come over here to the Silhouette software again. And I'm going to switch it back. I'm actually going to click on the library. I'm going to just choose a simple sketch. And it looks like my library opened. So that is a good sign. I'm going to choose a simple sketch here. Let's try these stars. We're just going to sketch stars. Why not? So they're fairly large. I'm going to center that to the page. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a sketch pen. And is that one? Let's see. Maybe red will be better. Or first thing you want to do with a sketch pen, any sketch pen, it does not matter what sketch pens you are using. I don't think I have a Silhouette sketch pen in here. But the blue adapter is designed for the Silhouette sketch pens, the black-bodied Silhouette sketch pens. You're going to take your pen and you're going to scribble with it on a piece of paper, the same paper that you are going to be working with. So this is an S-Gel Sharpie. These are awesome. They do fit in that Type-C pen holder. I'm just going to scribble here and you can see that it is writing. You want to get your pen flowing first. Now this is a brand new cutting mat and I'm going to use the one that came with the machine. You can hear it's brand new. My shirt is fairly clean. I just lint rolled it, but on a clean cotton t-shirt, I just de-stick it a couple times. It's kind of like seasoning a cast iron skillet. And then I'm going to lay this flat and I'm going to place my material in the top left corner. And I will be working upside down, so it'll be just a little bit different than what you are doing. And then I am going to go ahead. We're going to leave that there for a second. Going to go ahead and I'm going to place the correct adapter. Let's hope I have found one. Figure out which one fits. This one is a medium. And I'm going to slide that in. Oh, that one doesn't fit in there. It's not far enough. Let's find the correct adapter. That is the Tool 2. Here's my large. See, I have 2 of them. I had to buy extras. Actually, I think I have 3 total for this. So you're going to place this in here. And what I actually need from this one is the cap. You want the cap. And with Type-C, there is one specific way it goes on. There's a little channel on it and a channel on the knife or on the lid. And we're going to push this in. Let's see if I can get this in as far. This is kind of on the fly. I knew I wanted to do this, I just wasn't prepared. But it's what you're going to see real time. So if I screw this all the way in, my pen almost fits. You want the tip of your pen to hit the end of the cap. That is when you know, even with the older ones, the older one you couldn't see. And the only thing with this is it's got this little grippy thing on it, so you just have to work with that. So you're going to click your pen. I like these because you can click them off when they're not in use and you don't have to keep installing the pen. That is awesome. But you're going to install it and then tighten it in here, but you want the tip of the pen only to touch the end of the cap with the cap on. So when it's secure in there, then you can take the cap off. That's how you know that it's installed properly. The other thing when you're sketching is you want to make sure that your cutting mat is fully supported. If it is hanging down in front, that will cause it to bow up more, and that's when you can get some drag with sketching. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the lock on the front of tool 2, and I'm going to install this in tool 2 and lock it in place. Then I'm going to load my cutting mat with the left edge next to the line on the left. So I have both my rollers, left rollers on the left edge, right rollers on the right edge, and I'm going to push the button. That's going to take a little bit of getting used to. And you need to push it long enough, but then you have to let it go to have it load. It seems a little bit different than the other models. So now we have that loaded. So back over into the software. I have my stars on my design. I'm going to come up to the Send tab, and it shows cardstock plain. Currently, it's set up under Tool 1. So if I change this, this is what I want to show you here. Cardstock plain, if I were to change this to a sketch under Tool 1 holder, you can see here Tool 1 holder is active. Force, I'm looking for speed here. So your default speed in this Silhouette version is a speed of 5. I do want to state here that faster speed is not always better. With a Tool 2 housing, it might be just because it was so slow to begin with. But your default speed for sketching is a 5. And if I increase this, it can go up to 30 in this version. I thought it was 33, but this version of I'm sorry, it's going to be hard to get used to. 5.0.402 has a high speed of 30 on Tool 1. We don't want to use Tool 1, so I'm going to select the design, and then this is another change in version 5. Instead of having cut, no cut, cut edge at the bottom of your mat, you will now see Tool 1, use all selected lines. Tool 1, use outline of selection. Tool 1, use all selected lines. That equals cut. Tool 1, use outline of selection. That equals cut edge. So if you have any objects that are overlapping, it is going to cut the edge or sketch the edge, depending on what tool you have recognized in your machine. Or Tool 2, use all selected lines. So I'm going to select Tool 2. I want all selected lines. Then I need to go over to Tool 2, Tool Holder 2. I know it sounds like a lot of steps, but it's just going to take some getting used to where the new features are in version 5. Tool 2, I have Sketch, Pen Holder, and now when I come over here, it's going to give me the option of speed of 30. Now I've actually never changed the speed. If anything, I have decreased the speed when I'm sketching because it has skipped lines. So I've never actually, I did test it when they first released that there was an increase in speed with Tool 1. And yes, it does sketch faster. So we're going to test it out right here. We're going to see what happens and see the behavior of Tool 2. So it shows Cameo5 Alpha is ready, and it shows that I am going to be sketching with a force of 7. Cross our fingers that's going to work. This is going to be our test. And a speed of 30. So I'm going to click on send, and we're going to watch the machine in action. So send, it's going to give me some pop-ups I need to click on. I'm just going to click on send, and the machine is going to start. So we're going to see that is a definite change. Your speed 30 is faster. What I notice is that my pen stopped working. That's not the Silhouette machine's fault. That's the pen. It doesn't like this fast speed. That's the first thing that I'm going to say. It doesn't like the fast speed, the pen itself. We'll test it out. I'll grab another sheet of cardstock while this is finishing. Okay, new sheet of cardstock. We're going to try it at the default. I know the video is getting long, but it's real time. It's important, I think. If you're still with me, that is great. If not, have fun with your machine. So what we see here, if I unload this, is that my sketch pen itself did not work well at the speed of 30. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to scribble. Guess what? It scribbles just fine for me at a speed. And it stopped there. Not all pens like all materials. So right here, troubleshooting. This pen is not ideal, and I believe I had issues with this color in the beginning. I was just trying to find a cool color to show. Let's see if I can find, is this one's the red. See, I have a lot of them in here. Real time. What is this one? This one's like a metallic gray. And I had success with this before. So we're going to try that one. Same thing. Install. Put the cap back on. And hopefully you'll pick up the tips. The cap fell off. It jumped right off of there. Someone out there is going to love these tips. Some of you I've lost. And you won't even hear me say that. But I know there are people that have issues, and that's how I know what to say and how to work through them. Get this in there. If I try to speed myself up, I'll make a mistake. But not all pens like all materials. Just like if you sign a credit card slip, and it does not write with your signature, that is because it usually has a waxy surface. But some pens just don't like to continue writing. Doesn't matter if it's a Sharpie or if it's a Silhouette sketch pen. So, new mat, my cardstock is tearing simply because I'm trying to do this too quick. I want to carefully peel my cutting mat away, and it's kind of at an odd angle. Where you sketch is going to cement down to your cutting mat as well. It's going to cement that cardstock down. And that is, I'm not sure, let me just bring it closer to the camera. So you can see my sketch design in there. I would almost say that a force of a 7 is a little bit too much. But the more you sketch on top of cardstock in one area, the more it's going to stick. And that is exactly where it stuck on my cutting mat. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. So we saw, I will say, I do think it's faster. Simply because before, the tool would go one line, pick up, set down, go another line, pick up, set down, go another line. It was incredibly slow. And I do have videos that show that as well. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to load my cutting mat. Now see, that time it didn't do it. Now it's going to auto load. There, it activated the auto load. I'm going to just scribble. Okay. And then push that in, back over into the software. I'm going to change this back down. Let's just do a 10. And then I'm going to click on send. I think it's faster simply in the behavior. You can hear a difference in the tool too when it does it, but now it's doing a continuous line. It didn't always do that before. So even now I feel it's faster. And my pen is drawing, sketching. And I didn't change the force. I meant to, but I didn't. That's okay. This is what happens when you do real time. And I don't like to typically do movie magic. I know there are a lot of videos out there, and I see a lot of videos that are movie magicked, and they do not give you that real user experience. And in some cases, they are so movie magicked that the results are not accurate. So lift that up. I could hear it catching on the edge of my paper. Listening to your machine is one of the biggest troubleshooting things. You can often hear that something went wrong before you actually can see what is going wrong. I think it's faster. It was a real time. So let's make sure. Okay, to recap, we have new roller design, which so far I think is great. I like the fact that you can see the actual rollers and know where they're going to be. It's going to be much easier to troubleshoot, and it's going to be much easier for you to clean them. Personally, I don't have to clean my rollers very often because I keep them on the edges of my cutting mat. I do not let them roll over the adhesive. Once in a great while, maybe I forget, but typically that's the first thing I do is I move those rollers. So we have the updates on the rollers, update on the roller lock itself. We also have the updates. I'm just going to unload this. Updates to where the right roller can be positioned and locked in place. I'll do more testing with that as we go along. We have the increased speed with the sketch pen on tool 2. I think that is good. I demonstrated that. I think it worked well. It definitely has a different behavior than the first generation Cameo 5 did on tool 2. We have the 4-point registration marks. Make sure to watch the Silhouette Secrets YouTube channel. I will have additional information on that. I will need to test that. That's going to take a little bit of time as I just got my machine today. And then we have the increased clearance with the electrostatic mat for the roller bar on the Cameo5α that has now gone up to 0.5 millimeters. So you can test out those thicker materials and see if they will cut. Make sure to do your test cuts and test cut those designs. One last thing that I do want to mention is there is an auto open and auto close with the power button. It is only available on the Cameo5 Plus. Cameo5α Plus. That's going to take some time to say all those words together. That is not currently out. That Cameo5α Plus will be available in matte black, and the estimated time given at Summit in 2025 was coming in November. As I record this, it is September. We'll see when that actually is released and available. I do not think that is a reason to get that machine. When you are looking at a Cameo5α Plus or any of the Cameo Plus models, you need to take in some questions or some things to think about. We get a lot of questions about it. Do you need the additional 2.6 inches of cutting width? It is a machine that can utilize 15 inches of material, but it does have a cutting width of 14.6 inches. Do you need that? Is it worth the extra expense? I don't need the answers to those questions. The other thing to ask yourself is, do you need to have that extra cutting width and the extra size of the machine to take up space? Do you have the space to have that extra machine, on your workspace for that extra 2.6 inches of cutting width? Those are the questions that I would ask if you are interested in the Cameo 5 Plus models. I don't think the auto close, auto open it's not a deal breaker for me or a deal maker for me either way. So, I can easily just close the lid on mine or open the lid on mine. And usually I keep mine closed all the time. I do recommend keeping the lid closed on your machine since we have this new powered tool housing. You want to keep that clean and free of debris so that you can utilize those powered tools. If you have any questions about the Silhouette Cameo 5 or software versions, let me know in the comments below. I know this was a long unboxing and setup video, but I do think that most of it is important to users, and you may want to pop back in here if you do run into troubleshooting issues and need those questions answered. So let me know in the comments below if you have grabbed the Cameo 5 Alpha, or if you are going to, or if you have any additional questions. Thanks for watching and have a great day.